Hello, everyone. I'm Nora Ali here with Dave Stephenson, the Chief Business Officer at Airbnb. Dave, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Great to be here, Nora. Thanks for having me.
A lot to get to, starting with the consumer, the all-important consumer. It's been a tumultuous year. It's, on the one hand, there's record expectations for air travel, a lot of big spending on big events and concerts throughout the year. But on the other hand, inflation has obviously hit consumer wallets. So how would you describe the current state of consumer health and how it translates to Airbnb stays at this moment?
Yeah, I think what's been amazing since COVID is how much people have appreciated and missed travel and came back and really felt like connecting with others in the real world is something they miss and they value. And that trend, I don't think, has changed. I think people have continued to spend their money on experiences over things. And I think that, the wallet is always important. I mean, the economy is important. What people can afford is important. And what's beneficial about Airbnb is I think we've always been about great value and providing people a better place to stay, maybe with a better location, more amenities, more room for family or friends, and to provide that great value. And I think that's what we're finding is that people care about experiences over things. They care about value, and they're coming to Airbnb because they get that great value.
And we'll get to some of the ways and features that Airbnb has introduced to make that experience better for guests and hosts in a moment. But, one of the key issues for Americans this past year and the past few years, frankly, has been housing affordability. And over the summer, it actually sunk to its lowest level since 2007. Some folks have blamed, in part, short-term rental companies for exacerbating this problem of, elevated prices and a supply shortage. How do you at Airbnb respond to that? And is there any merit to that argument overall?
And can you remember that housing affordability has been an issue for many, many years? And actually the founding of Airbnb was because of housing affordability, right? Joe and Brian were having a hard time paying their rent in an extremely expensive city of San Francisco and knew that a number of people were going to come to a design conference there in San Francisco, and people couldn't afford to actually a place to stay. There were a limited number of hotels, and they were incredibly expensive. And they were put two and two together and said, look, we could actually have people stay affordably at our home. We can earn some money and help pay the rent, and we can show other kind of design people a great time. And that was the founding story. And I think that's continues to be the case. We have individuals, the vast majority of our hosts on Airbnb are individual hosts. They share their own home or maybe their second home, and they use it more than half the time to help pay for their living expenses. And so this is a very real thing that we think that actually Airbnb can help contribute and support people in paying for their homes. And to the extent that people are blaming Airbnb for the cost of housing affordability, I think you can actually look at the New York regulations as a counterfactual to that. Right, New York banned Airbnbs effectively, blaming them for blaming Airbnb for the increase in the cost of living. Now we don't have Airbnbs in New York. Cost of living continues to go up. All that's happened is hotel rates have gone way up, and neighborhoods and individuals are no longer able to kind of earn incomes from their places. So it hasn't changed the housing affordability. And I think it just shows you that Airbnb is not the significant contributor to the issue.
And to contribute to some transparency around pricing, I understand one of the new tools you've offered is allowing hosts to better set competitive prices with more information around prices in their markets. Can you share more about that tool, and what do you think the impacts on pricing on the platform and maybe the overall market would be from this tool?
No, that's exactly right. We call it price tips. And what we do is just make it easier for a host to set competitive prices, right? Again, because the majority of our hosts are just individual hosts, they're not sitting at their computers monitoring price every hour of the day like maybe a hotel might do. They tend to set and forget their prices, and it's not always as competitive. And so what we've done is made it really easy to make recommendations on what a good competitive price may be, and make it easy for a host to see what other similar kind of hosts are charging for places in their area. And then if they like the recommendation that we give, they can, simply click yes. And it surfaces the price tip as new pricing. So I look forward. I think it's been a great evolution of our pricing capabilities. And I think over time, we're going to continue to make it easier and easier for hosts to give great value to guests.
And it sounds like, one of the great things about Airbnb's team is that you listen to guest feedback, host feedback, make adjustments, and offer new tools depending on what the demand is. Can you just talk to me about maybe your overall process around that? Is collecting feedback, deciding what goes onto your product roadmap, your feature roadmap, and how you're really listening to your end users?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I think, again, one of the differences between Airbnb and some other platforms is that we are design-led, right? Two of our founders are designers. They use that information from the guests and the host to inform what we design and how we build it. And we do that from a kind of design lens first and not just from a pure data lens. We kind of do a design and use data and design together to inform the roadmap. And that's exactly how we decided on the 50 new improvements that we are releasing here as part of the winter release is based on understanding of pain points or opportunities for further improvement.
Could you expand on what you mean by that a little bit? What is a design-led strategy versus something, compare that and contrast that to maybe being more data-driven? And I know you leverage both, but what is the design-forward?
Yeah, design starts with first principles. What is the objective that we're trying to solve? Whether that's like, if maybe you look at pricing to maybe the earlier example for hosts, realize that it makes it hard for hosts to price. So you think of from first principles, what is it you need to do to make it easier and more beneficial for them to have better prices? And then you kind of work forward from those first principles in a design way, and you make sure that they all fit together. Because I think this is an entire system. It's important to have the system of hosts and guests and how it all fits together in one place. And so it's important to have all those kind of tie together through this design process. Whereas I think if you're only doing data-driven kind of A/B testing, then you're doing these small incremental modifications that maybe does small improvements to the overall results, but don't think about the holistic picture and how they all fit together uniformly. And so then you end up with, a good example is a place that I know and love well. I spent 20 years at Amazon. I think it's a great company, but I wouldn't say that it is the most design-led. It's much more so data-driven that it may not have the most aesthetically pretty website, but and it may not always work, as whole in a unified way, but it may be very effective at driving kind of overall sales. Whereas I think Airbnb thinks more holistically about how all the elements fit together into one design ecosystem.
Amazon might not feel as human necessarily as your experience on Airbnb.
That's a great way to put it. Exactly. I wouldn't say it's human-centric. It's customer-centric.
Yes. Transaction-centric, yes. Yes. So you also added this co-hosting platform, and this was, again, based on feedback where Airbnb hosts said they would rent out their properties more or rent out additional properties if they had more help. What benefits can hosts expect from this platform, this co-hosting platform?
Well, again, this is one of those realizations that we've had over time is that we've had the ability to have co-hosts for a long period of time. And what we've seen is that if you have co-hosts, then hosts are able to host more often. And we also know that there are many people that own homes that would like to share them on Airbnb, but don't either know how or don't have the time to do it. Again, I have a full-time job, but I want to share my cabin, my ski cabin just outside of Seattle with others. I can do it because I have a co-host, and that co-host helps me manage the calendar, manage the communication with my guests, manage any issues that might, come up. And I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have that co-host. But I had to go find that co-host and I had to, bring them on and vet them myself. Now through the CoHost Network, we're helping to actually do that matching for somebody. So we have 10 countries around the world that we're launching with. We have 10,000 hosts that co-hosts that are available to kind of be on the platform. We're then recommending to prospective hosts or existing hosts what co-hosts might be able to come on, and then helping them find the right person to help them, do their hosting. And what it's going to do is a few things. One, it's going to bring more hosts onto the platform. Mm-hmm. Two, if they're already hosts, they can host more often because it'll make it easier. Three, it's going to improve the overall quality of the hosting because these co-hosts are some of our best hosts, right? They have a 4.86 rating. They've been on Airbnb for more than a year. They have a low cancellation rate. And so then it all benefits the flywheel at the end as well. You end up with a better quality stay for our guests. So then the guests are happier. So just kind of win-win all the way around.
Sounds like that might also be better for new hosts who don't have their ratings yet and reviews and track record. They can tether themselves to a co-host, right, that has that positive rating, that track record that guests can trust.
That's exactly right. Now, the rating of the home is still based on the home itself. Yep. So you don't bring over the co-host rating. But you're exactly right that these co-hosts can help them through the process. Like what photographs would be good? How do you describe your property? What would make the property more compelling? They can even help with pricing suggestions. Mm-hmm. I know we have these great price tips and we'll do more to automate it, but still having that judgment from an experienced co-host, I think can be really invaluable.
As a guest, will you see the co-host's profile and their information?
As a guest, you will see you will not see the, let's see, how will you see it? You will see the rating of the co-host, yes, because it'll be the rating of the host that you have, but the ratings are usually by the individual stay. So the property itself has its own rating.
Cool. Just the more information, the better, right? When you're maybe a first-time guest, looking at first-time hosts. So I did want to ask you, what are some of the big picture initiatives you're excited about at Airbnb? Whether it's, you mentioned you're launching this new co-host platform across 10 countries, but when you think about just launching in general in additional markets, business travel, what are some of those big initiatives that you're excited about?
Well, I think some of the big initiatives are also many of the 50 things that we've added for the winter release, which is just being more personalized. Continue to make Airbnb more personal to a particular guest so that we do a better job of matching up our 8 million unique listings with our tens of millions of unique guests. And so we're doing a lot of things for personalization. We're doing highlights of properties, and so that you feature things that may be relevant and helpful for a particular guest as they're seeing them. Or we have 80 different filters that we're asking people to kind of work through, and we're actually now recommending a couple of filters that a person might want to kind of pin and select to better do their searching. That makes it more personal. We also are getting just more personal about our payment methods that we have around the world, right? You end up with being local in Denmark or in Vietnam. They may have some unique payment capabilities that we don't know about in the US, but are very important to them. Like I wasn't aware of VIPs in Norway or mobile pay in Denmark or Momo in Vietnam, but those customers care about those things. So now we're presenting the payment methods that are important to each country and each location. So it's this bigger trend of how do we become more personalized? How do we show up as being more local? How do we show up as being more relevant and helpful to our guests?
Mm-hmm. And it's hard these days to talk about personalization without bringing up AI. Airbnb acquired GamePlanner.ai last year, and the intention was to accelerate some of Airbnb's AI initiatives. What do you think will be, maybe zooming out, the role and impact of AI on the Airbnb journey overall for both guests and hosts?
Yeah, super excited about the acquisition of Game Planner. It's an incredible team, and they've definitely accelerated our knowledge and information about AI. We have been using more traditional old school AI as kind of machine learning, right? It's kind of using a kind of a simplified. It's not a Chat GPT type thing, but we end up using AI across the company in a number of different ways. One is just making our engineers more efficient. So to the extent that we can do coding and use the coding capabilities of AI can just make us more efficient and more effective so that our teams can actually do more of these initiatives like the 50 items that we launched here as part of the winter release. We're also using it to help with our customer service work, right? Again, we're in 220 countries and regions around the world, and yet you need to often have a host and a guest may have two very, very different languages. So if you have a German guest traveling to Vietnam, how do you make sure that they kind of communicate well together? Well, we can use AI for language translation. We can use AI for a lot of the communication that takes place between those different languages. And it helps our customer support agents, right? We end up with, when you have customer support issues, those can be kind of complex between a host and a guest. And AI can help filter through those challenges and better synthesize what's going on. And then lastly, but maybe even most importantly, we can use AI to just make the product better. We can do a better job of surfacing the stays that might be most relevant to a particular guest. We're also, in this latest release, we're using AI to help with our the hosts being able to have quick replies, so we can suggest quick replies. You can kind of see it similar to the way you do some of the, fill out of texts or emails where AI is, suggested. Just makes it simpler to kind of communicate. And then I think over time, we're just going to continue to get more personalized. So to the extent that a person wants to share information that's important about them for a particular stay, we can use AI to do a better job of kind of matching up the right places. So it's an evolution. I think it's going to take a number of years for it to kind of fully play out. But we're already seeing some of the benefits now. Yeah.
How do you also think about the 360-degree experience of travel for guests on Airbnb, adding services, groceries, car rental, all of those things, and your approach to building it internally, buying it, partnering? How are you thinking about services overall?
Well, I think that will be a nice logical extension in the future. Brian has talked about the fact that we intend to expand beyond our core offerings. I think what we're doing as part of this winter release is just making sure we have a great foundation of continuing to perfect our core service, to continue to get more personalized, to continue to improve how we match up the best hosts with the best guests. And I think we do that really well. Then we have the right and capability to extend beyond stays into experiences, which we've had for a number of years, but I know that can be even bigger and better in the future, and other services for guests and hosts. Nothing to announce yet, but I am excited for what we're prepared to do here in the future.
Well, stay tuned. Very quickly, last question. Airbnb is set to release earnings next month. So as we just look through the rest of the year, through travel season, what are your expectations as we get closer towards the end of the year as far as travel demand and use of the platform?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to how we started the conversation. I think people value travel. They value connection. They're valuing that more than they are valuing things. We saw it this summer with the Summer Olympics in Paris, where we had our biggest event that we've ever had in our history. Paris ended up it was a magical place for our stays. And we had 400,000 people, more than 400,000 people stay in Paris for the Olympics. We had some incredible experiences hosted by former Olympians that took guests on unique experiences all around the city. Cool. And the Olympics wouldn't have been able to be the same without us. We were able to keep prices low because we were able to bring on more inventory. And the cost of an Airbnb in Paris this summer was about the same as it was during the Olympics as it was the year before. I mean, it was amazing. And so I think these are going to continue to be the trends. Taylor Swift is still on tour. We're still seeing 900% increase in searches for Taylor Swift at her last concert in Vancouver, Canada. So the Taylor Swift effect is real. And we're looking forward to continue to host guests from all around the world for these major iconic events.
The Taylor Swift economy, it's its own thing. All right, Dave, we will leave things there. Dave Stephenson is the Chief Business Officer of Airbnb. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thanks for having me. It's great talking to you.